Ever shared an idea in a meeting and then watched it float past like it was never said? And then 5 minutes later, someone else says something similar, and suddenly everyone's nodding?
Yeah, that moment stings a bit more than people expect.
You start wondering, was it the idea or was it me? Welcome to Time's Ethan and Claire, the Canadian Workplace Guide. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Claire.
And today, we're talking about something a lot of people quietly experience, feeling like your ideas just don't get noticed at work. If you're new to Canada, take a breath. You're not alone in this. A lot of people, especially newcomers, international students, early career professionals, go through this exact feeling. You're trying to contribute. You're thinking carefully. You finally speak, and it doesn't quite land.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not even obvious why. Like, you don't get negative feedback, but you also don't get any reaction at all.
Exactly. It's that silence that makes you question things. Am I being too quiet? Too indirect? Too unsure?
Or even, did I say something wrong?
Right, so today we'll walk through a real situation, unpack what's actually happening underneath, and then share some small, practical ways you can make your ideas more visible without changing who you are. So let's imagine this. There's someone, we'll call him Min. He's been working at a mid-sized tech company in Toronto for about 3 months. He's thoughtful, observant, really good at his job, but in meetings, he's quiet. Not silent, but careful. He waits for the right moment.
That already sounds familiar.
Yeah, so one day, the team is discussing a new feature rollout. There's some confusion about how users might respond. Min has actually seen this situation before in a previous company. He knows there's a risk, so he speaks up. He says, I think maybe we should consider how new users might feel overwhelmed at this step. And then he stops.
Stops?
Yeah, just a pause. Not dramatic, just soft. And the room doesn't fully catch it. Someone else jumps in quickly. The conversation moves on.
Oh,
And Min sits there thinking, okay, maybe it wasn't a strong idea. A few minutes later, another colleague says, hey, maybe we should simplify onboarding so new users don't feel overwhelmed. And suddenly,
everyone agrees.
exactly, people start building on it. Yeah, good point. That's important. Min hears it and thinks, wait, that's what I said.
Yeah, that can really affect how you see yourself.
It does. After that, Min starts speaking less. Not because he doesn't have ideas, but because he's not sure they'll land.
And I think a lot of people slowly move into that space, not intentionally, but out of self-protection.
Exactly. And over time, it becomes a pattern. So, why does this happen? Because it's usually not about intelligence. It's not about having good or bad ideas. It's often about how times the idea is delivered, and how it fits into Canadian workplace communication.
That makes sense. So it's less about content and more about framing?
Yeah, framing and timing and tone. One thing I've noticed in Canadian workplaces is that ideas are often received based on clarity and confidence signals. Not aggressive confidence, but visible structure.
Like, people need to recognize that what you're saying is times an idea worth holding on to?
Exactly. If your sentence feels like a passing thought, people might treat it like one.
So when Min said, I think maybe we should consider, it sounded a bit tentative?
Right. Polite but easy to overlook. And there's another layer too. In many cultures, being indirect is respectful. You soften your ideas to avoid sounding pushy.
Yeah, you kind of leave space for others.
Exactly. But in Canadian workplaces, while politeness matters, there's also an expectation that you'll own your idea just enough for people to notice it.
So it's like a balance. Not too strong, but not too soft either.
That's a great way to put it. So let's talk about what can actually help. Not big personality changes, just small adjustments that make your ideas easier to hear.
I like that approach.
First thing times, signal your idea clearly. Instead of easing in too gently, you can try. One thought I'd like to add is, it's still polite, but it tells people, hey, this matters.
That feels very natural, not aggressive at all.
Exactly. Another one. Something I've noticed from past experiences, now you're giving context.
So people understand why they should listen.
Right. And here's another. I'd recommend we consider.
That sounds a bit more confident.
Yeah, but still very Canadian. Not forceful, just grounded. Let's do a quick micro practice. Imagine you're in a meeting. Instead of saying, I think maybe this could be an issue, try. One thing that might become an issue is,
Oh, that's subtle, but it sounds more complete.
exactly. It feels more like a contribution, less like a guess. Another helpful shift times, finish your thought. Min pause too early. That pause gave space for interruption.
So even a small pause can change how your idea is received?
It can. Try holding your sentence just a bit longer. For example, one thing I'd like to add is that new users might feel overwhelmed at this step, especially if we don't guide them clearly. Now it's harder to interrupt.
That makes a big difference. You're giving the idea shape.
Third times, anchor your idea to the discussion. Sometimes ideas get lost because they feel disconnected. So you can say, building on what Sarah mentioned.
Oh, I hear that a lot.
Yeah, it's very common. It shows you're part of the flow, not outside it. Another micro practice. Let's say someone shares something. You respond. That's a great point, and I'd add that we might want to.
That feels collaborative, not competitive.
Exactly. And that's key in Canadian workplaces. Fourth times, repeat your idea if needed. Gently, not defensively.
That part feels uncomfortable for a lot of people.
It does, but you can do it like this. Just to come back to that earlier point about onboarding.
Oh, that's very soft.
Yeah, you're not saying you ignored me, you're just bringing it back into the room. And one more times, use a slightly stronger closing. Instead of trailing off, end with, I think that could really improve user experience.
So you're giving your idea a clear landing.
Exactly. So when you put all of this together, it's not about speaking more. It's about making your ideas easier to recognize.
That's an important distinction because a lot of people think the solution is just talk more. And
Yeah, and that can feel exhausting. This is more about time's clarity than volume. Let's zoom out for a moment, because there's also a mindset shift here. Your idea doesn't need to be perfect to be worth sharing.
that's a big one. A lot of people wait until they're 100% sure.
Exactly. But in many Canadian workplaces, ideas are oftentimes developed together, not presented fully formed.
So speaking earlier, even if it's not perfect, can actually help.
Yeah, it invites collaboration, and it shows presence. Let's be honest for a moment. There's a quiet kind of discouragement that comes from feeling overlooked. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it builds. You start holding back. You start second guessing.
Yeah. And sometimes people don't even realize it's happening. They just feel less confident over time.
Exactly. So if you felt that, it makes sense. You're not doing anything wrong. You're just adjusting to a different communication style. One small culture tip before we wrap up. In Canadian workplaces, being collaborative is often more valued than being impressive. So it's not about delivering the smartest idea in the room. It's about contributing in a way others can build on.
That's really helpful because it takes pressure off needing to be perfect.
Yeah, you're part of a conversation, not a performance. So maybe here's something to reflect on. The next time you're in a meeting, what's one small way you could make your idea just a bit clearer?
Maybe it's how you start the sentence or how you finish it.
Exactly. And if you feel comfortable, try it once. Just once. See how it lands. If this is something you've experienced, we'd really like to hear from you. What was that moment like? And what have you tried since?
You can share your story with us. We read every message. And honestly, a lot of people are going through the same thing.
Thanks for spending time with us today.
We're really glad you're here.
Keep going at your own pace. Your voice matters, even if it takes a little time for others to fully hear it.
And we'll see you next time.